She threw my mother's china at the wall because I bought the wrong brand of sparkling water. That's when I stopped loving her. I was standing in my own kitchen, watching a gravy boat that had survived 3 generations shatter against Italian marble countertops, and I felt something inside me go quiet. Not angry, not sad, just done. 6 months later, the divorce papers were signed. I was on a ferry crossing the Salish Sea to Vancouver Island. She remarried within the year. A charity gala. Black tie. Everyone important was there. Then someone asked a question that made her new husband's empire crumble live in front of 300 people. She called me, screaming at 2 in the morning. I was 4,000 kilometers away, finally sleeping through the night. My name is Harold Whitmore. I'm 62 years old. And 18 months ago, I did something most men my age only dream about during their morning commute on the GO train. I divorced my wife after 30 years of marriage, sold my partnership in a financial advisory firm, and moved to a small cottage in Victoria, British Columbia. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match in the driveway of our Rosedale home, just the papers on the kitchen island, my house keys beside them, and a note that said, "Everything is yours." I've gone. I was a chartered accountant for 35 years. Built a practice from nothing, helped wealthy Torontonians manage their money, plan their estates, navigate the complexities of Canadian tax law. Good income, respected in the community, a beautiful home that my wife, Margaret, decorated like it was going to be photographed for a magazine at any moment. From the outside, we looked perfect. From the inside, I was suffocating. Margaret worked as an interior designer, high-end clients, the kind of people who spent more on a single room than most Canadians earn in a year. And somewhere along the way, she started believing our life should match the lifestyle she was selling. Nothing was ever enough. The Muskoka cottage wasn't on the right lake. The car wasn't the right German brand. The neighborhood wasn't quite prestigious enough, even though we lived in one of the most expensive postal codes in the country. I stopped arguing around year 23, started sleeping in my home office around year 27. By year 30, I realized I was living with a stranger who happened to share my last name and my mortgage. We had 2 children. Rebecca is 29 now. She works as an investigative journalist for a major newspaper in Vancouver. Sharp as a tack. Inherited my skepticism and her mother's determination. She saw through Margaret's performance years before I found the courage to leave. Then there was Thomas, 26, associate at a corporate law firm in Calgary. Bright kid, but he bought his mother's version of reality completely. Thought I was the problem. Cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. Everything, Margaret said, coming out of his mouth like a recording. The heart attack happened 4 months before I left. A mild one. The kind that doesn't kill you but whispers in your ear that the next one might. My cardiologist said the word stress 11 times in a single appointment. I drove home that evening, watched Margaret screaming at a contractor about the wrong shade of white for the guest bathroom ceiling, and realized something with perfect clarity. I could die in this house, and she would only notice if my body was blocking her path to the wine cellar. So I started planning. Quietly, methodically, the way you plan any important business decision. 6 months of careful restructuring. My assets went into a family trust with Rebecca as the administrator. The house, the cottage, the cars, the furniture, all of it went to Margaret, along with the debts that secured them. I made sure everything was legal, above board, just strategically arranged. The morning I left, Toronto was still dark. February cold. I took a taxi to Pearson Airport, walked through security, and didn't look back. By the time Margaret woke up and found my note, I was somewhere over Manitoba, drinking terrible airplane coffee and feeling something I hadn't felt in decades. Peace. Now I wake up to the sound of seagulls and the smell of salt air. I drink coffee that actually tastes like something. I walk along the harbor, watching the float planes come and go. I paint badly. I kayak when the weather cooperates. I learned enough about local history to bore anyone who will listen. I hadn't spoken to Margaret since I left. Hadn't checked her social media. Hadn't asked mutual friends. I already knew how it would go. She would mourn for a week, rage for 2, then find someone new to fill the void. I was right. I got divorced and moved across the country. My ex-wife immediately married her new partner. I found out from a message from someone I barely remembered, but that's a story for later. Right now, I'm sitting on my deck in Victoria, watching a cruise ship glide into the inner harbor, And I'm about to tell you what happened when my ex-wife's perfect new life collided with the past she tried to erase. Life in Victoria had a rhythm I had forgotten existed. No alarm clocks, no client calls, no Margaret interrupting breakfast to complain about why I had chosen the wrong brand of organic maple syrup. Just me, the Pacific breeze, and a city that had survived earthquakes and economic crashes and still knew how to breathe. I had been there 5 months when the message arrived. I was at my usual spot, a small coffee shop on Government Street where the owner, a retired fisherman named Frank, had stopped correcting my pronunciation of local place names and just smiled when I tried. I was sketching the Parliament buildings across the harbor, something I had picked up to keep my hands busy, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Peter Ambrose, a guy I knew from university. We had lost touch sometime during the Mulroney years. His profile picture showed him gray at the temples, holding a golden retriever, looking content with life. The message was short. Hey Harold, long time. Don't know if you care, but thought you should know. Margaret is getting married. Next month. Big charity gala in Toronto. The guy's name is Victor Pennington, real estate developer. Thought you might want a heads up. Take care, old friend. I read it twice. Put down my phone, picked up my coffee. The mug was warm in my palm, solid, real. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was curious. The way you're curious about a television show, you stopped watching halfway through the season. Victor Pennington. I knew the name. Flashy type. Always showed up at charity events with expensive suits that looked like they were trying too hard. Drove a different luxury car every quarter like he had a personal showroom. He had flirted with Margaret at a hospital fundraiser 3 years ago. I remembered because she laughed too loudly at his jokes. The kind of laugh that needed to be noticed. I opened my laptop. Her Instagram was public. Of course it was. Margaret lived for visibility. The feed was exactly what I expected. Engagement photos that looked like they cost a fortune. Her in white, him in navy, both holding champagne glasses against a sunset that had definitely been edited. The captions were poetry written by someone who had never actually read poetry. When you know, you know. Finally found my forever. Some people are worth waiting for. I scrolled through the comments. Friends congratulating her. Clients flattering her. A few brave souls asking variations of what happened to Harold. Those comments had been deleted, but the gaps in the numbering gave them away. Then I saw the event details. The Margaret and Victor Pennington Foundation launch gala. The Royal York Hotel. Black tie. 300 guests. A celebration of their union and their new charitable foundation dedicated to supporting the arts. Something clicked in my brain, cold and precise. I closed Instagram and opened my files. It took 10 minutes to find what I was looking for. Buried in a folder labeled Old Clients. There it was. A due diligence report from 12 years ago when I had been asked to review a potential investment opportunity. Victor Pennington's first major development project. The numbers hadn't added up then. Too much expansion, not enough revenue. I had advised my client to pass. I leaned back in my chair. Frank appeared with more coffee. I thanked him in my terrible attempt at the local accent. He laughed and patted my shoulder. The gala was in 4 weeks. Margaret was marrying Victor Pennington in front of 300 of Toronto's most influential people. And she had just made it public. Location, guest list, hashtag, everything. I opened my contacts. Found a number I hadn't used in years. Douglas Chen had run a high-end catering company in Toronto before retiring to Kelowna. I had helped him restructure a deal that saved his business in 2012. He told me if I ever needed anything, just call. I called. He answered on the 3rd ring, voice warm and surprised. We talked for 5 minutes. Then I explained what I needed. Nothing dramatic, just a small favor. Adding a name to the vendor list. A guest with a clean record. A legitimate reason to be there. Douglas was quiet for a moment. Then he gave a low, understanding laugh. You know something, Harold? He said. I think I can help you with that. Consider it done. I thanked him, hung up, and finished my coffee. The sun was setting over the inner harbor, painting everything gold and orange. I wasn't going to the gala. I didn't need to. But I was going to make sure it was memorable. Rebecca called me 2 days after my conversation with Douglas. It was early morning in Victoria, which meant late night in Vancouver. She never called without reason. My daughter inherited my tendency to be economical with words. Dad, she said when I answered. No greeting. I saw Mom's Instagram. The gala. Victor Pennington. You know about this? I stepped out onto my deck. The harbor was quiet. A lone kayaker was making their way toward the breakwater. I know. And? Are you okay? Her voice softened slightly, the way it always did when she was trying to read between my lines. I'm fine, sweetheart. Better than fine. Your mother's choices don't concern me anymore. Silence on the other end. Thomas is going. She finally said. He's going to be in the wedding party. Victor asked him personally. Mom made it sound like a great honor. Families blending, new beginnings. Thomas bought it completely. That made me pause. I set down my coffee cup. He's what? Victor asked him to give a speech. Some kind of testimonial about new role models and father figures. Thomas thinks it proves that Mom has moved on and found something better. I closed my eyes. My son. 26 years old. Smart enough to analyze contract law, but blind to his mother's manipulations. What about you? I got an invitation. Very formal. Very Margaret. I sent my regrets, told her I had a deadline. She paused. Dad, I've been digging. Victor Pennington's companies. Something's wrong. The financials are clean on the surface, but the pattern is off. I've seen this before when I investigated that Ponzi scheme last year. This was why Rebecca was the best investigative journalist in Vancouver. She saw patterns where others saw noise. What did you find? Nothing concrete yet. But his expansion timeline doesn't match his revenue reports. He's opened 4 new developments in 2 years. That requires significant capital. His credit lines are maxed. I think he's been using new investor money to pay old investor debts. Classic pyramid structure. How long until it collapses? 4 months, maybe 5. There's a lawsuit pending too. A former partner alleging fraud. It's being kept quiet, but I found the court filings. I watched the harbor. A cargo ship was heading out toward the open Pacific, slow and deliberate. Does your mother know? Of course not. She sees the cars, the properties, the lifestyle. She never looks under the hood. Rebecca's voice got harder. Dad, Thomas is wrapped up in this. If Victor goes down publicly, it's going to spread to everyone associated with him. Thomas's law firm won't like having their junior associate connected to a fraud case. This could damage his career before it even starts. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said slowly, that someone should make sure the right information surfaces at the right time. Before Thomas gets in any deeper. I smiled. My daughter, 29 years old and already thinking 3 moves ahead. You know I can't be involved in anything that looks like sabotage. I know. But you also taught me that the truth doesn't need help. It just needs timing. She paused. I'm flying to Toronto. Told Mom I changed my mind and want to support her new beginning. Rebecca. Dad, Thomas is my brother. He's being an idiot, but he's my idiot. If this gala is going to be memorable, I want to make sure he sees what's really happening before it's too late. I was quiet for a moment. Be careful. I always am. I could hear the smile in her voice. Oh, and Dad? That favor you asked Douglas Chen about, the caterer. How did you? I'm an investigative journalist. It's literally my job. I saw the guest list. Maxwell Bennett, +1. Very subtle. She laughed. I like it. Classic. Elegant. I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. After she hung up, I sat on my deck for a long time. The kayaker had reached the breakwater and was resting, paddle across their lap. The sun climbed higher. My daughter was going to her mother's gala. Not to celebrate, but to document. And somewhere in Toronto, a man named Maxwell Bennett was about to become the most important guest that nobody remembered inviting. Thomas called 3 days before the gala. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since I left. He had sent a brief, cold email saying he was disappointed in how I had handled things. No questions, no curiosity about my side, just judgment wrapped in Margaret's talking points. But I answered, Dad. His voice was stiff, formal, the voice he probably used with difficult clients. Thomas. A silence stretched between us like a chasm. I'm calling because I think you should know, he finally said. I'm giving a speech at Mom's gala. Victor asked me personally. Rebecca mentioned. He sounded surprised. She's coming too. Changed her mind at the last minute. I thought maybe you had something to do with that. I had nothing to do with it. Your sister makes her own decisions. More silence. Then, Victor's a good man, Dad. Successful. Treats Mom well. He's everything she deserves. The words hung in the air. Everything she deserves. Everything I wasn't. I swallowed my first response and chose my words carefully. I'm glad your mother is happy. Are you? Really? The challenge in his voice was clear. Because it seems like you just gave up, abandoned everything. Walked away like none of us mattered. I stood up and started pacing. I walked away from a marriage that was killing me, Thomas. Not from you or your sister. I had a heart attack. Mild, but real. My doctor told me the stress was going to finish what genetics started. So I made a choice. By running away? By saving my own life. My voice was harder now. And if you think that's weakness, then your mother taught you well. He was quiet. I could hear traffic in the background. Calgary noise. Thomas, I said, softer now. I know Victor. Not well, but enough. Just promise me one thing. When you're up there giving your speech, pay attention. Not to what people say. To what they don't say. What's that supposed to mean? It means the best lawyers do due diligence. They verify. They look at the fundamentals, not just the performance. I paused. You're good at that. Don't stop doing it just because it's family. I don't need career advice, Dad. I'm not talking about your career. I'm talking about your judgment. I walked back to the deck. Victor Pennington built something impressive. Very impressive. Ask yourself how. Ask yourself if the numbers add up. You're trying to sabotage this. I'm trying to protect you. What's the difference? From being collateral damage when the performance doesn't match reality. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. I have to go. The rehearsal dinner is in a few days. I need to prepare my speech. Thomas. Goodbye, Dad. The call dropped. I put down my phone and looked out at Victoria. The city was waking up fully, filling with sound and movement and life. Somewhere in Calgary, my son was angry at me for leaving. Somewhere in Vancouver, my daughter was packing a suitcase and preparing to document a disaster. And somewhere in Toronto, Margaret was about to marry a man whose empire was built on a foundation that was already starting to crack. I picked up my phone again. Sent a message to Rebecca. Keep an eye on your brother. The response came immediately. Already on it. The rehearsal dinner happened without me, but Rebecca sent updates like she was covering breaking news. Short messages, clinical observations, no emotion, just facts. Arrived. Margaret looks nervous. Victor is overcompensating. Thomas's speech was about new beginnings. Didn't mention you once. Maxwell Bennett just introduced himself to Victor. Said he's an old family friend from the Maritimes. Victor bought it completely. That last message made me smile. I was sitting in my cottage, drinking a glass of wine from the Okanagan and watching the lights reflect on the harbor. The image of Victor Pennington shaking hands with a phantom was satisfying in ways I couldn't articulate. Rebecca called an hour later. I could hear background noise, music, conversation. He's perfect, Dad, she said quietly. She must have stepped outside. Maxwell, mid-70s, looks like someone's grandfather. He's got this whole backstory about knowing the Bennett family from Halifax. Complete fiction, but he sells it brilliantly. I don't know anyone named Maxwell Bennett, I said carefully. She laughed. Of course you don't. Anyway, Victor introduced him to Mom. She looked confused for about 3 seconds, then just smiled and played along. You know how she is. Never admits she doesn't know something. How's your brother? The pause told me everything. He's fully committed, Dad. He gave a speech about how Victor represents everything a real man should be. Successful, confident, committed. Her voice was bitter. The subtext wasn't subtle. And you? I smiled. Clapped. Played the supportive daughter. Then spent 20 minutes in the bathroom searching public records on my phone. She paused. Victor's main development company filed for an extension on their quarterly reports. That's never a good sign. His primary lender reduced his credit limit last month, and there's a former partner about to file a civil lawsuit for fraud. I straightened up. When? The lawsuit filing date is 2 weeks after the gala, but the preliminary documents are already circulating in legal circles. She exhaled sharply. If Thomas's law firm finds out about this before the gala, they might start questioning his judgment. Does Margaret know anything? You're joking, right? She's too busy planning the seating chart for the foundation launch. She has a color-coded timeline for when people should cry during her speech. I saw the document. I could picture it perfectly. Margaret turning her wedding into a production. Every moment staged for maximum impact. And Maxwell? What's his role in all this? He's giving a toast tomorrow. During the gala, he asked specifically for a speaking slot, said something about honoring old friendships and new beginnings. Rebecca paused. The event coordinator loved it. Mom approved without question. Victor thinks it's a nice gesture. Traditional, elegant. Her voice shifted, more serious. Dad, what exactly did you tell Maxwell to say? I didn't tell him anything specific, just suggested that he speak from the heart. About truth, about foundations, about making sure what looks solid actually is solid. That's wonderfully vague. I learned from the best corporate lawyers. She was quiet for a moment. Thomas is sharing a hotel room with one of Victor's business partners, a guy named Craig, investment banker type. I overheard them talking about a deal that fell through last month. Victor needed capital fast. Craig said something about creative accounting. Did Thomas react? He laughed. Said all successful people push boundaries. That's what separates winners from employees. Her voice turned bitter. Mom taught him well. Just keep an eye on him tomorrow. When things get interesting. Define interesting. I think you'll know when you see it. After I hung up, I stepped out onto my deck. Victoria was settling into its evening rhythm. Somewhere across the country, my daughter was preparing to watch her mother's perfect day unravel. And somewhere in a Toronto hotel, a man named Maxwell Bennett was preparing to say things that needed to be said. I slept well that night. Better than I had in years. The gala was magnificent. Rebecca sent photos. Margaret in a designer gown that probably cost more than my first car. Victor in a custom tuxedo, looking like he had stepped out of a luxury lifestyle advertisement. The Royal York Ballroom draped in white and gold. Everything perfect. Everything staged. The ceremony went smoothly. Speeches that sounded like they had been written by a greeting card company. Readings about love and partnership and forever. Thomas stood beside Victor, smiling, like life was exactly as it should be. Then came the main event. Rebecca's messages arrived faster now. Speeches starting. Victor's business partner just made a joke about his expensive taste. Everyone laughed. Thomas is next. This is going to be painful. Maxwell is after Thomas. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then my phone rang. Dad. Rebecca's voice was tight. Urgent. You need to hear this. I'm recording. She must have held up her phone, because suddenly I could hear the gala. Thomas's voice came through clearly, amplified by the ballroom's excellent acoustics. Victor Pennington is the kind of man we should all aspire to be, my son was saying. He built an empire through hard work and vision. He treats my mother like a queen. He's shown me what true success looks like. To Victor and Mom, may your future be as bright as your past is forgotten. As bright as your past is forgotten. The dig was clear. I was the past. The failure. The thing they had moved beyond. Applause. Glasses clinking. Then, Rebecca's voice came back, breathless. It's Maxwell's turn. Here we go. The crowd noise faded. I heard someone clear their throat, then a voice, older, measured, carrying the kind of authority that makes people listen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maxwell Bennett, and I've known the Pennington family for many years. The lie was delivered with perfect confidence. I wanted to take this moment to celebrate this union, but also to talk about something important. Truth. The ballroom grew quieter. I could hear it through the phone. Margaret, you look absolutely radiant. Victor, you've clearly made quite an impression. He paused. I've been in business a long time. I've seen many deals, many partnerships, and the ones that last are built on solid foundations. Not appearances, not promises, foundations. Another pause. Longer this time. So I want to propose a toast. To Margaret and her second chance at happiness. His voice echoed through the ballroom like it was made for it. And to Harold, wherever he is tonight, probably somewhere peaceful, probably painting something, probably finally able to breathe. I held my breath. Margaret, I hope you're certain you made a good trade, my dear. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you might have exchanged solid ground for quicksand. Absolute silence. The kind that makes the air feel thick. But hey, Maxwell continued, his voice lighter now. What do I know? I'm just an old man who believes in asking questions. Questions like, how does someone open 4 major developments in 2 years without traditional financing? Or why would a successful businessman need to restructure his credit lines every quarter? Or what happens when the music stops and everyone's looking for a chair? I could hear movement now. Confusion. Someone trying to get to the microphone. Anyway, Maxwell concluded softly, to the happy couple, may your forever be stronger than your past, and may you both receive exactly what you deserve. Then the call became chaotic. Voices overlapping. Someone shouting. Music starting suddenly. Too loud. Trying to drown out the disaster. Rebecca came back, gasping. Dad. Oh my God. Mom just ran out of the ballroom. Victor's face is purple. Thomas looks like he's been hit by a truck. Half the room is on their phones. The other half is pretending nothing happened. Where's Margaret now? Outside. I can see her through the window. She's pacing. She just pulled out her phone. Rebecca paused. Dad, she's calling someone. I think she's calling you. My phone buzzed. Margaret's name appeared on the screen, a number I had deleted but still recognized. I have to go, I said to Rebecca. Keep an eye on your brother. He's going to need you. I switched calls. Margaret, you. Her voice shook with rage. You sent someone to crash my gala. You planned this. You planted that man. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm in British Columbia. Don't lie to me. That speech, those questions, that was you. You couldn't face me yourself, so you sent a mercenary to ruin my evening. Your evening isn't ruined because of me, Margaret. It's ruined because you built it on sand and called it concrete. She was breathing hard. I could picture her in her expensive gown, perfect makeup. World crumbling. You're pathetic. You always were. Couldn't handle that I moved on. Found someone better. I don't care that you moved on. I care that our son is going to be collateral damage when your new husband's house of cards collapses. Victor is. Victor is what? Going to defend you? Explain away those questions? My voice stayed calm. Margaret. The man can't even explain his own finances. Good luck explaining your choices. She made a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. Then the line went dead. I put down my phone and looked out at Victoria. The harbor lights reflected on the water like fallen stars that had decided to stay. Across the country, my ex-wife's perfect gala had just become unforgettable. And somewhere in that chaos, my son was starting to ask the questions he should have asked months ago. The truth doesn't need permission to speak. It just needs good acoustics and the right moment. The video went viral within hours. Someone at the gala, probably one of the younger guests, recorded Maxwell's entire toast and posted it to TikTok. By morning Victoria time, it had 500,000 views. By evening, over 4 million. The caption read, "Gala toast destroys billionaire's new wife. Wait for it." The comment section was merciless. Did he just ask if she traded down? Brutal. The way her face changes at the 38-second mark. She knows. May you both receive exactly what you deserve. That's the most elegant murder I've ever witnessed. Someone created a compilation video. Margaret's face frozen at the exact moment Maxwell said quicksand. Zoomed in, slow motion. Her smile dissolving. The champagne glass tilting. Understanding spreading across her features like spilled ink. It became a meme within 24 hours. Margaret's gala face showed up on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. People used it to illustrate regret, bad decisions, instant karma. There were comparison videos, before and after photos, opinion pieces about wealthy people and their performative relationships. Rebecca sent me the links. Dad, this is everywhere. Mom's name is trending. Her design clients are calling. People are asking questions. I scrolled through the content, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no guilt, just the distant observation of consequences, arriving on schedule. Then Thomas called. Dad. His voice was different, lower. I'm listening. Victor's companies are being audited. That lawsuit Maxwell mentioned went public yesterday. A former partner is alleging that Victor used investor money to cover personal debts. The banks are freezing his assets. He paused. My firm called me in, asked about my relationship with Victor, asked if I had any knowledge of his financial situation before the gala. What did you tell them? The truth. That I didn't know. That I should have asked questions, but didn't. His voice faltered slightly. They're putting me on administrative leave while they investigate. They said my judgment has been compromised. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, son. Are you? Because you knew. You knew this would happen, and you still let me walk into it. I warned you. I told you to look at the fundamentals. You called it sabotage. You could have told me the truth directly, instead of playing games with planted guests and cryptic warnings. Would you have listened? If I had called and said Victor Pennington is a fraud, would you have believed me? Or would you have defended your mother and called me bitter? A long, heavy silence. I don't know, he finally said. Maybe you're right. Maybe I wouldn't have listened. He exhaled, shaky. Rebecca's been helping me. She pulled all the public records, showed me everything. The lawsuits, the foreclosures, the pattern of fraud going back 3 years. It was all there. I just didn't want to see it. Your mother has that effect on people. She makes you want to believe her version of reality. She's not speaking to me, Thomas said quietly. I tried calling her, asked if she knew about Victor's problems. She said I was betraying her, choosing your side. Then she hung up. I'm sorry. The videos are everywhere, Dad. Everyone's seen them. People from work, friends, everyone. They're all asking if that's my mother. If I knew the gala was going to fall apart. He laughed bitterly. Cutting. I was the one giving a speech about my role model. That's in a video too. Those aged poorly compilations. I wanted to tell him everything would be fine. That he would recover. But Thomas was 26 and learning a hard truth. Some mistakes follow you. Some consequences don't care about intentions. Rebecca is staying with me for a few days, he said. She's trying to help me figure out next steps. She said you taught her to verify everything, to never trust appearances. She's a good sister. She is. He was quiet. Dad, I was wrong. About you. About why you left. I thought you were weak, but you weren't. You just saw what I couldn't see, and you got out before it destroyed you. It almost did destroy me. I had a heart attack, Thomas. Mild, but real. Your mother's chaos was killing me slowly. I left to survive. I understand that now. I'm sorry I didn't understand before. We talked for another 20 minutes. He asked about Victoria, about my painting, whether I was happy. I told him the truth, that I was. That leaving had been the hardest and best decision I had ever made. When I hung up, I stood on my deck watching the fishing boats return to harbor. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. My son had called me Dad again, had apologized, had seen past his mother's performance to the truth behind it. Across the country, Margaret's perfect gala had gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Victor's empire was crumbling in real time, and my son was learning that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who can't see you clearly. I poured a glass of wine and raised it toward the ocean. To the truth, I said aloud, and to the courage to face it. Victor Pennington's companies filed for bankruptcy 3 weeks after the gala. The lawsuit became public record. Investor fraud, embezzlement, creative accounting that made certain American corporate scandals look amateur. The media coverage was extensive. Margaret's name was in every article. Wife of disgraced real estate developer Victor Pennington, interior designer married to fraud suspect. Her firm quietly asked her to take a leave of absence. Client calls dropped 70% in a week. Rebecca sent me the court documents. I read them while eating breakfast on my deck. The condo Victor and Margaret had bought together was already triple mortgaged. The cars were leased at rates that suggested desperation. The joint accounts had been emptied by creditors within 48 hours of the bankruptcy filing. Everything Margaret thought she had gained by marrying Victor vanished faster than it appeared. My phone rang. Rebecca, Dad, you need to hear this. I just talked to Mom. Her voice was tight, controlled. She's being sued. Victor's creditors discovered that she received gifts and transfers during their brief marriage. They're alleging she had knowledge of the fraud, that she benefited from stolen investor money. Did she know? She swears she didn't. But Dad, the evidence is damaging. Victor bought her a car 2 weeks before the wedding, $40,000 cash, from an account funded by investor capital. Rebecca paused. Legally, she's liable. How much are they claiming? $320,000, plus legal fees. I exhaled slowly. She doesn't have that money. The house I left her. Remember all those refinancing arrangements I made before I left? The ones she didn't know about? Yes. The house is worth less than the debt. She can't sell it without taking a loss. Can't borrow against it. She's trapped. And Victor? Victor disappeared. Literally. His lawyers can't find him. There's speculation he fled to a country without extradition. Panama, maybe. Or Costa Rica. She gave a short, sharp laugh. Mom married him 6 months ago. Now she's alone with his debts and a viral video that shows up every time someone searches her name. Has she asked you for help? Help? Rebecca's voice was incredulous. She called Thomas first. He told her he was dealing with his own career crisis because of his connection to Victor. Then she called me, asked if I could lend her money. What did you say? I said no. How did she react? Exactly how you'd expect, said I was heartless. That family helps family. That she raised me better than this. Rebecca's voice hardened. I told her she raised me to verify facts before making decisions, and that she should have verified Victor before marrying him. I imagine that went over well. She hung up, then texted that I'm just like you, cold, calculating, incapable of real love. She paused. I took it as a compliment. I smiled, despite myself. How's your brother? Better. His firm took him off administrative leave after 2 weeks. They reviewed everything and concluded he had no knowledge of Victor's fraud. But Dad, his reputation took a hit. He's been transferred to a smaller department. Less client contact, less visibility. It's going to take years to rebuild trust. He'll manage. He's smart, resilient. He is. And he's learning. She was quiet for a moment. He called me last night, said he's reassessing his old assumptions about you and Mom, reevaluating everything. Said he couldn't believe how blind he was. We all see what we want to see, until we can't anymore. Rebecca was silent for a moment. There's one more thing. The viral video. It's being used in business schools, as a case study, about due diligence failures, about not letting personal relationships cloud professional judgment. She paused. Mom's gala is literally being taught as an example of what happens when you prioritize image over substance. That's unfortunate. Is it? Because I think it's justice. She spent decades building her life on appearances. Now everyone can see what happens when the foundation isn't solid. We talked for another hour. She told me about a new investigation she was working on. Corporate fraud at a tech startup. Award-winning work. She called it searching for gaps between what people claim and what they can prove. You taught me that, she said. You and your quiet exit. You didn't make noise. Didn't threaten. Didn't fight. You just protected yourself. Documented everything. And left. That's real strength. After I hung up, I sat watching the Salish Sea. A cargo ship was heading toward the open Pacific. Slow, steady, deliberate. Margaret had lost everything she gained from me. Victor had vanished. Her career was damaged. Her reputation destroyed. Her finances in ruins. And she had done it all herself. By choosing flash over foundation, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired and grateful. Grateful I had left when I did. Grateful my heart attack had been a warning instead of an ending. Grateful for the quiet life I had built on solid ground. My phone buzzed. A message from Thomas. Starting therapy next week. Rebecca recommended someone. I think I need to understand why I defended Mom for so long. Why I couldn't see what was right in front of me. Thanks for trying to warn me. Even when I wouldn't listen, I typed back, proud of you, son. That takes real courage. His response came immediately. Learned from the best. 8 months after the gala, things began settling into a new normal. Victor Pennington was indicted on 17 counts of investor fraud. Margaret sold the house at a significant loss. Moved to a small apartment in a neighborhood she used to call transitional. Her design practice was effectively over. Thomas called me every Sunday now. We talked for an hour, sometimes more. He was rebuilding slowly. His firm had transferred him to a different division, working with smaller clients, less prestigious deals. He told me it was humbling but necessary. I'm learning to ask questions I should have asked years ago, he said during one call. Not just about finances, about people, about myself. That's growth. It's painful, but I think you needed it. I did. He paused. I talked to Mom last week. She asked if I could help with rent. I said no. How did that feel? Terrible. And right. His voice was firm now. She spent my whole childhood teaching me that family means sacrifice, but she never sacrificed anything. She just expected everyone else to carry her weight. You're learning about boundaries. That's important. Rebecca's been helping me with that. She has boundaries like castle walls. He laughed. She told Mom straight up, I'm not your retirement plan or your emotional support animal. Figure it out yourself. Your sister has always been direct. She has. I'm grateful for it now. He was quiet. Dad, I'm seeing someone. Her name is Sophie. She's a nurse. Nothing glamorous. Nothing flashy. She's just genuine. When I told her about the gala disaster, about Mom, about everything, she didn't judge me. She just asked if I had learned from it. Smart woman. She is. I think you'd like her. Maybe when you visit Ontario, you could meet her. I'd like that. When we hung up, I stepped outside. Victoria was glowing in late afternoon light. The Parliament buildings reflected in the harbor. Somewhere across the country, my ex-wife was facing consequences she had built for herself. But I didn't think about her much anymore. I thought about my children, about the life I had rebuilt, about second chances and solid foundations. 14 months after leaving Margaret, I met someone. Her name was Yuki, 60 years old, Japanese-Canadian, third generation. She owned a small tea shop in Chinatown, just up the hill from the harbor. We met when I wandered in looking for something to warm me on a rainy afternoon. She recommended a type of green tea I had never heard of. "You live here now," she said in perfect English, with just a trace of an accent. "You should understand what this place has to offer." We started having tea together, then dinners, then long walks through Beacon Hill Park where she knew every tree by name and season. She didn't know anything about my past, didn't search my name online, didn't ask probing questions, just accepted me as I was in the present. "You seem like someone who has been through something difficult," she said one evening. "But you came through it. That's what matters." Yuki was a widow. Her husband had passed 5 years earlier. Cancer. She understood loss and rebuilding. We compared notes like architects discussing foundations. "The second time you build something," she said, "you build better, because you know what actually holds weight." Thomas met her when he visited Victoria. They talked about books for 2 hours. At dinner that night, he pulled me aside. "She's wonderful, Dad. Completely different from Mom. She actually listens when you talk. Really listens." He looked at me intently. "Are you happy?" I thought about it. The question I had stopped asking myself years ago. "Yes. Genuinely happy." "Good. You deserve that." Rebecca came 2 weeks later. She and Yuki connected immediately over their shared directness. No performance. No pretense. Just two women who valued substance over appearance. "She's a treasure," Rebecca told me. "Don't mess this up." "I'll try not to." "I mean it, Dad. You have something real here. Something Mom never gave you." Actual partnership. 3 months later, Thomas called with news. He had been promoted. His firm recognized his improved judgment, his careful approach, his willingness to ask difficult questions. "They said I'm the most thorough analyst they have now," he said, pride evident in his voice. "Because I verify everything. Don't trust anything at face value. I'm proud of you, son. I learned from you, the hard way. But I learned." Margaret eventually declared bankruptcy. The lawsuits, the debts, the underwater house. She couldn't recover. Her parents helped her move to Vancouver Island, of all places, though far from Victoria. I heard she was working in retail furniture sales, a long way from luxury interior design. I didn't feel triumphant, just sad for the years wasted, for the woman who could have been a partner but chose to be a performer. Victor Pennington was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Investor fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. His developments were liquidated. The victims recovered about 30 cents on the dollar. One evening, Yuki and I sat on my deck. The sun was setting over the Salish Sea, painting everything amber and rose. She was reading poetry aloud in Japanese, translating passages for me. I was sketching her profile. "You know what I love about you?" she said suddenly. "Tell me." "You're present. Completely present. Not performing. Not planning 3 moves ahead. Just here." It took me 62 years to learn that. Better late than never. She smiled. "Your children are visiting soon?" "Thomas is planning to come for Christmas. Rebecca might come for New Year's. They want to meet your children too. Blended families at our age." She laughed. "My mother would have opinions. Let her have them. We're building something real. That's all that matters." She took my hand. We sat watching the harbor turn from gold to silver as the sun disappeared. Ferries crossed toward the mainland. Seaplanes landed in the inner harbor. The city settled into its evening rhythm. I thought about the man I used to be, stressed, suffocating, slowly dying in a beautiful house with a woman who never saw him. That man felt like someone I had known briefly but never understood. This man, sitting on a deck in Victoria with a woman who knew his present better than his past. This was someone I had fought to become, someone who had chosen peace over performance, truth over image, foundation over facade. My phone buzzed, a message from Thomas. Sophie said, "Yes, we're engaged. Can we have the wedding in Victoria? Small, real, just people who actually matter. You and Yuki could help plan it." I showed the message to Yuki. She smiled, eyes bright. "Tell him yes," she said. "Tell him it would be an honor." I typed back, "Congratulations, son. Victoria sounds perfect. We'll make it beautiful. The right kind of beautiful." His response came immediately. "Thanks, Dad. For everything. For showing me what real strength looks like. I love you." I put down my phone, looked at Yuki, at the harbor, at the city I had chosen to call home. "This is good," I said. "Yes," Yuki agreed. "This is very good." And for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't waiting for the worst to happen, wasn't planning an escape, wasn't bracing for chaos. I was just living, with complete honesty, on solid ground. The truth, I have learned, doesn't need anyone's permission to surface. It just needs the right moment. And sometimes that moment comes in the form of a single question asked in a ballroom with excellent acoustics. But here's what I wish I had known 30 years ago. What I hope anyone listening to this story might take away. You cannot love someone into seeing your worth. You cannot sacrifice yourself into being valued. And you cannot build anything lasting on a foundation of appearances and denial. Real strength isn't dramatic confrontation. It isn't winning arguments or proving points. Sometimes real strength is the quiet courage to walk away from situations that are slowly killing you, to choose peace over performance, to prioritize your own survival when no one else will. My heart attack was a warning. I was lucky enough to listen. Not everyone gets that second chance. To anyone out there stuck in a relationship that's suffocating them, wondering if they're the problem, watching their health decline while trying to meet standards that keep shifting, I want you to know your life matters, your peace matters, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave a beautiful cage and build something real somewhere else. The people who truly love you will find their way to you, eventually. My children did. It took time and pain and public humiliation, but they saw the truth in the end. As for those who choose performance over substance, who value image over integrity, the universe has a way of bringing consequences home, not through revenge, not through sabotage, just through the natural collapse of anything built on sand. I'm 63 now, healthier than I've been in decades, surrounded by people who see me clearly and love me anyway, building a life on solid ground. That's the only kind of life worth building.